always a pleasure to spend some time with you, Brianne.
Yes, likewise. Very much so. Um, Today, we are meeting under some pretty potent astrology this week. What we have going on is Mars conjunct Pluto, the ruler of our North Node conjunct Pluto in Aquarius, and tomorrow the ruler of our South Node, Venus, will be conjunct Aquarius, and Uh, so yeah, lots of new cycles birthing right now. And I think with this conjunction to Pluto and Aquarius, it's a perfect time to talk about why we love evolutionary astrology.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, agreed.
yeah. So this was a brilliant idea that Paula brought forward. And yeah, I guess I just want to start off with asking you, Paula, like what brought you to evolutionary astrology first off, and what if there was a singular moment or just a major theme that really got you excited about it. If you wouldn't mind sharing that story, I would love to hear it.
Hmm. I think like I got gradually into it. So I was first following the moon phases or like the full and new moons, and uh, that got me excited to look more into astrology. So then I started listening to some different astrologers on YouTube, and then learning more with the years, and then recently last year also in astro school at Rasalila Healing. Yeah, and I think like why it's so interesting to me is because it teaches us about the foundational energies of life and of the universe, and gives us like a big picture, holistic view of what life's about. So that's one main thing why I love it so much.
Cool. Cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd love to
I think for,
hear. Sorry.
oh yeah, I was gonna tell you anyways.
Good.
I was gonna tell you anyways. Um, yeah, I I love how, first of all, I just want to reflect back from what you said. I love how it was the moon who first caught your eye, so to speak, and sort of like pulled you into this desire to learn more. I really love that. Because when we think about the moon in evolutionary astrology, it is so central, right? It is us, it is the ego, the vehicle through which our human experience manifests and our evolutionary journey manifests, right? It's like it can't happen without it. So I just want to say that I love that it was that very, very personal, intuitive sense that like drew you in to want to know more. Yeah. And and yeah, and we met in the Rasa Lila healing community. We both have participated in the Astro School, which is an amazing school. Timothy Halloran teaching evolutionary astrology, and yeah, what a great way to dive in, hey? Um, when I was first learning in the Astro School, I was like, wow, finally something that that goes to the depth of where I want to go. You know, I'm a deep sea diver. I like to I like to dive in deep and I'm a social worker, and I was very I've had many experiences as a social worker, many experiences with being frustrated at the lack of depth in the healing and in the approaches and in the support that we make available to folks. And then I also had, the opposite end of that spectrum where, I worked with amazing folks who really did understand that depth, and we were, creating all sorts of good mischief up and serving it to the people. And it wasn't until I learned evolutionary astrology that I was like, okay, this is like totally in alignment with my way of seeing the world and how I want to serve others, like um not that everyone has to go to the very deep sea that I, am in, but just that, that I could that I could actually really see a soul for who they are in their individual unique nature, and have the capacity to go as deep as they are ready, right? um and so that is really why I fell in love with evolutionary astrology. But first and foremost, it really was about seeing the value of it for me personally, like, I don't know about you, but when when you learned your Pluto placement, it's like the first time you learn about it, you're like, holy moly. And then you start, deepening in your understanding, and it's like, oh, okay, this is who I am, and this is why I am, and it's like, it's so, I want to say validating, but it's more than that. It's like, it's really it's actually freeing. It's like,
Mm.
it's freeing to know that, like, this is who I am. And I think a lot of misconceptions around astrology is like, yeah, you'll learn what your fate is, like, you'll learn what your destiny is, like, that you will just be like this and you'll be like this forever. And it's like, the evolutionary astrology approach is like, no, like, you are a living, breathing reflection of these signs and symbols, and and you have free will, and you have the capacity to evolve or not, and it's really up to you, right? And so I love that about it as well.
Yes, very much so. And yes, also personally, like coming into more self-awareness, and also of like the more challenging parts of our lives, and seeing how it's all reflected there is so fascinating, and how accurately through the themes of the different signs, planets, and houses. And yes, it is so important to have a language and different ways to talk about trauma and repression and other challenges in life too. It's like they don't go away by us not talking about them, so we need to find ways to talk about it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
astrology is one way to start to explore those themes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's inclusive. I think what I'm hearing from you is like, it's inclusive of like all of life.
Yeah.
Astrology doesn't just reflect the fun parts or the parts that we want to see. Like, sure, it can. Um, and it also reflects everything and gives us an opportunity to, yeah, as you say, dive in and have a language for it all, right? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Totally.
And to yeah, become aware of more of what are our strengths, and get kind of like a validation for that, I guess, but also like to get validated in our pain too, and maybe get some sort of um, pointers of what might be a more balanced way of integrating this energy, and
Mm-hmm.
I think is also very helpful in learning
Mm-hmm.
like the maybe a bit more detached versions of these all these energies, and then the more integrated,
Mm-hmm.
the more connected forms of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And it's so fascinating to me how we can observe the cycles and rhythms of that detachment and closeness throughout uh, throughout the season cycles and spirals in the zodiac, namely the the phases of the moon. You know, if we were to think about the word um, detachment, I guess we would think about a full moon when the sun and moon are in opposition with one another, right? They have the most space between one another to observe in a more detached, objective way what is going on in relation to those symbols, right? And then as the moon wanes, you know, through a third quarter square back to new moon, it's like it's coming back into that closeness of self, but also uh, through the lens of society as well on that side of the wheel too. And I guess the first part of that phase, half phase, is very personal. You know, the zodiac is a circle, and you know, houses 1 to 6 are, you know, the personal ones, and 7 through 12 the more branching out into, you know, others and community and society a bit more. I mean,
Like the
super simplistic, but yeah. And so it's like,
interpersonal.
yeah, interpersonal, exactly. And so it's like, even if we just take that one exercise following the phases of the moon throughout the month, we can begin to observe and feel and embody these cycles of detachment and closeness, you know, of like seeing these themes as, you know, just observable evidence, you know, like astrology is a science, right? It's like we can observe almost as if we were like a third party to our life what's happening through the lens of astrology, because we're like, you know, it was yeah, just a simple example for myself. um when I first started you know, tracking the moon, I would be like, oh my gosh, every single month when the moon is conjunct my natal Pluto, I am crying, and you know, shit is like breaking down, and it is like, it's a hard time. You know, and it was like just being able to like observe that from a more objective place of like, I'm simply noticing a cycle here. And then as you say, like simultaneously being able to feel the closeness of that, right? Because it's like the moon is our inner emotional world, and so I was simultaneously feeling all of that go through me, you know, every single month, and I still do, you know. And it's like through that uh symbiotic relationship of observing and feeling it flow through me, I'm able to every single month like have a different experience when the moon conjuncts my Pluto, or have the same experience and learn something different. Like, you know, like it's, there's always evolution, you know.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that wide perspective that astrology gives, it also helps to bring that awareness to it, like of these cycles, which is so fascinating to see
Mm-hmm.
with the moon, especially because it's like how like we feel that I feel the very most, but also then with the different planets with their different cycles, different amount of time it takes to for them to complete different cycles and have different new cycles with a relation to each other, and all
Mm-hmm.
this beautiful dance in the skies that reflects kind of our inner world at the same time.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, that's the golden nugget of why I love it for sure, is observing these cycles, these spirals, these seasons and these phases. Um, and that's where I really think that we can reach depths of true healing through evolutionary astrology. Even just taking the transits of this week into account that I started this conversation with, it's like, you could look at the zodiac in a very sort of like top down linear way and be like, okay, Mars and Pluto are conjunct in the first degree of Aquarius. So this means that we are, straight away liberating our desires and having the freedom to live our passions and go our own way. And, it's going to be really driven by soul, and it's all happening right now. Or you can look at what's happening right now and be like, they are initiating a new phase with this conjunction, right? And that's like putting the moon's phases through the relationship of every single planet or asteroid that we are, looking at in the zodiac. It's like then we can see like, okay, this essence of Mars, Pluto in the first degree of Aquarius is beginning a new phase. They're beginning a new cycle. And so maybe it's not necessarily the time that we straight away feel super free and are liberating our passions and our sexuality and everything. It's like maybe this is a poignant like acupuncture point in time of where we can like seed and just be in the unknown, in the spontaneous instinctual expression of like what, just like trying to tune into like, what is this new cycle bringing, what do I want to bring to this new cycle, right?
Yeah, yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
leading up to it too with the balsamic
Yeah.
phase, a lot of like letting go of like how we used to do these things. If it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
working, then
Yeah.
there's I know for me there's been a lot of that kind of themes going on with both Mars and Venus, and very much so like I don't think we're going to step instantly into the new. We're going to evolve into it through the cycle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. And it's such a treat to observe, even in these bigger cycles, with the outer planets. Well, Pluto is one of them that moves very slowly. um it's such a treat to like see sort of where they've come from, where they're at now in relation to whatever symbol we want to look at, and then where it's headed. It's there's mm, there's always something telling about the phasal relationship between the planets. I really do. I really do love that part of evolutionary astrology a lot, being able to make the zodiac this, um, yeah, alive, living, breathing. Like we can see and feel it in our lives inside of us and in our environments and in the world around us because we are reflecting it, you know? Like kind of like what you said earlier, we are reflecting it.
Mm.
And that is always such a joy in my life, such a treat in my life to like continually be discovering more through my observation of nature by life happening and then seeing, you know, the correlation to the symbols and the cycles in the astrology, you know. It's there's always more to learn.
Oh
And I
yeah.
love a never-ending learning story, so
Yeah, same. Same. And I feel like it helps to strengthen the connection between the conscious and unconscious mind too,
mm-hmm,
through these symbols, and by combining that awareness and that lived experience. So I think that's
mm-hmm,
very beautiful indeed.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Totally. Do you have a story that you could share? And I know that I'm putting you on the spot right now, so if nothing comes, that's fine. But I'm curious if you have a story you can share about a time when you saw the astrology being reflected in life and maybe it being a moment, whether it was a aha moment or a oh shit moment or a you know whatever. Do you have anything off the top of your head?
Well, I guess I can say something about like the recent times. So
Okay.
I was tracking the planets in Capricorn, and Pluto moved to Aquarius, and then um, Mercury, Mars, and Venus all were closing up, coming closer and closer to Pluto, and I think Mercury and Venus already went over. No, Mercury and Mars, and Venus is still gonna go, like you said, over soon. But yeah, for me, I don't know. I have been feeling um, emotional catharsis, or like emotions coming up from the past. I think that links to the South Node in Libra too, that's going on, and the North Node in Aries, with like clearing the nervous system of what's still there, being repressed emotions from the past. And we also talked about that in the talk on the Moment podcast about Wind Horse, a bit about how we need to face and feel those emotions to for it to clear out, and so that we are a more clear channel for the energies of life to flow. And I think that's been like one of the main things, I guess, I'm learning, is that letting go, or like facing and feeling also like the overwhelming feelings. And yeah, it links to the Chiron I have in the first house in Cancer. But yeah, I think it's like, yeah, I'm very much in that process. The Especially now, like when Mars went over the 29th degree of Capricorn. I have a stellium in Capricorn, so I think that's also why it affected me so much personally. The progressed Mars I have is now at 29 Capricorn, so, and I think my Venus is 5 of Aquarius, so it's really activating these themes, and it's the 7th house in that progressed chart for me, so about relationships. And yeah, so it's been pretty intense for me, but
Okay.
I'm also like feeling that I am building more of like that sort of an interconnected uh, community where I feel safe to share about my experiences.
Hmm.
So that's also great to notice. So, Aquarius is my north node, so I'm coming to the community.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
asking.
Yeah. And that's it right there, you know. It's like straight away into the tender and into the rawness and the realness, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I commend you for your bravery of doing the feeling of the emotions, you know. That's in evolutionary astrology. That's what Jeffrey Wolf Green talked about quite a bit, was how we evolve through feeling our emotions. You know, the soul, if it goes through an experience that hurt it, you know, it wants to go through that grief process of crying those tears and feeling that pain so that it can learn, you know, how to evolve from that and how to move on from that, and and shed that major layer of that cycle of learning, right?
Yeah. I also want to add
And
like that for sure there was resistance with like
mm,
when it is coming up. Like
mm-hmm,
I'm feeling like a like that kind of like tingling emotions in like my nervous system before it comes up, and then I know that's okay, something is coming and I don't want to feel it. I don't want to feel it, but then at some
yeah,
point I have to, and a part of me does want to feel it because I know that it will help me to move on and to process it. But it, I just want to say like that that's also part of it. Like it's not wrong to feel a bit daunted by it too, because it is heavy.
mm, mm-hmm, yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally, yeah, I fully agree. The resistance is real. Yeah. And that's the beauty of these symbols, right? Like this, the symbol of Pluto, one of them, you know, the main bases of evolutionary astrology. It's like in Pluto, there is the soul and there is the evolutionary path of the soul, and there is the resistance to the evolutionary path of the soul. You know, it's like it's all there. It's all there happening all at once.
Mm.
Um, yeah, yeah, so fascinating. Hmm. Yeah. I I also think it's really fascinating how there is all of these cycles and spirals, phases and seasons happening that have been happening like an unfathomable amount of time before me and you got here on this planet. You know, and you know it's been happening forever, and and then that moment of incarnation, when you, Paula Lynn, as a soul, you know, first took your breath in this life on this planet, it's in that moment that your soul was reflected by the cosmos. And that is the imprint, that is you. You know, I find that so unfathomably powerful. You know, that moment that your soul left the Pisces web of everything and incarnated into this body this time around. It's like that's where we can see your soul. And um mm, uh yeah, the baseline for which your evolutionary journey is, you know, it's like sure there is freedom that we can always evolve, but then there's this baseline of like we are who we are at the end of the day.
Mm.
And
I
yeah,
like to
just
I like to think of it like as a it's like we all have the same ingredients, but it's always a unique recipe.
yeah, that's so true. That's so true. We all have a Pluto, we all have the moon's nodes somewhere. You know, that's the basis of evolutionary astrology is those symbols. We all have a sun, we all, you know, we all have it all. But yeah, you're right. The recipe is different
Mm.
for everybody. Yeah, so true.
Mm. But so much to share and relate about too, even though it's unique for everyone, but
Mm-hmm.
so many of the same themes that we all
Mm-hmm.
encounter.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's another really beautiful part about astrology is learning it not only for ourselves but also with others, you know, because we can see that we aren't alone in in our evolutionary journeys. You know, everybody's got an evolutionary journey and everybody's got growth edges going on. Everybody's got pain that they're trying to heal from. You know, everybody's got their own unique recipe of their gifts and their talents, and so it's such a treat to get together with others and to, you know, talk about life. We're talking about life at the end of the day, and seeing the humanity in that, you know, how we're all here on this incarnation, you know, just trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
And we can learn so much from, yeah, witnessing each other's journeys and learning from one another.
so true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kitty's meowing.
Mm.
Um, I I kind of like jot noted a few things. I just want to see if I missed anything. No. Well, I mean, I guess the other thing to touch on would be that evolutionary astrology is natural law. You know, that's what Jeffrey Wolf Green essentially was teaching was natural law, and this uh, natural law is a very objective thing, right? It is what it is. There are natural laws to being on this earthly plane, and I really see evolutionary astrology as living and breathing, and I interact with it every single day, you know, just through my goings about in my day. And it doesn't, yeah, it is sometimes sitting down at the computer and studying a birth chart and, you know, all of that for sure. Studying, you know, the potentials of what this symbol could express and that symbol and blah, blah, blah. And then when we go out into the world into ourselves, you know, it's like we can really we can really observe it all play out. And and so I love that. I love that it's a science. I love that with all of these cycles and spirals happening, we can really understand uh, the the essence of life and natural laws, and we can measure with accuracy, at certain junctures of the cycle, different turning points of the wheel, so to speak. And it's like constantly collecting information and measuring, you know, progress and outcomes and all of that. And I'm really excited for where I hope evolutionary astrology is heading, which is like I really want to be a part of making it a like recognizable, reputable, respectable science in the world of healing, and I really want to be a part of making that change as best as I can.
Mm.
That's what really excites me right now.
Yes, and I really think that it's so needed out in the world.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, totally.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else that you would like to add or say that you, yeah, didn't get to so far?
I think we touched on a lot of good things already. I think maybe another talk sometime, but I want to thank you so, so very much for sharing space again together. And
Mm-hmm.
if you have a great time until we meet again.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Paula. It's always a joy to speak with you, and yeah, thank you so much for creating this opportunity and for making it happen with me. It's been enjoyable. And until next time, yeah, take care.
Yes, take care.